Good morning. Give me 1 second to set up on this side. Oh my gosh, my name is Jonathan Geyer. This is my fourth LinkedIn Live where I'm reading my newsletter, Easy to Read Deep Thoughts. Quick little background, then I'm going to dive into it. This week is a longer post, right? So I'm going to have to I get to change my strategy a little bit here and read a little bit faster and or skip around a little bit more, skip some stuff along the way. I'm Jonathan Garrett. I am a top voice on LinkedIn. I was one of 300 people selected for this level account out of the this year, 2024, out of the billion users on LinkedIn Live. I'm also a boxing coach. I coach Golden Gloves here in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Our YouTube channel is crossing 200,000 views. Yeah. Oh, I implemented a health information exchange for the state of Minnesota, and I was stationed here in the St. Cloud, VA. I had the opportunity, I had the gift of sitting down and drinking a cup of coffee with 30 some odd thousand veterans. Yeah, that's a true story. It is super hard for me to transfer the lessons that I learned from all these veteran interactions. But be known, it is the foundation for how my current perspective works. How I think now was shaped by these interactions. And obviously I have all the other portions of my life and whatnot, but the veterans had a significant impact on me. They made a difference. Okay, let's get into it. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read and then I'm going to try to share a little bit of additional context as I read. Okay. I know what you're thinking. Directions for identifying somebody's current thoughts are below. Spoiler, context matters. And the results correlated to empathetic ability as much as correctness. Example, conclusions could be a personal measure of personal cognitive biases and not a highly correlated output of mind reading. Maybe you're not very good at it. Maybe you're not very aware, right? Like this is not a cookie cutter solution. This is human beings understanding other human beings. And what I'm going to prescribe or what I'm offering here in my whatever the output that I'm giving the world here is a more formal process for how I do it, but this is normal human being to human being stuff. You know it when somebody's upset. You know it when somebody's happy. You can only lie so much. Quantifying is the hard part. Like, hey, you can't prove that I was upset. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Like that's a measurement bias. It's kind of like in boxing we would call that rope a dope. Look it over here. Uh, just because I can't measure it doesn't mean I wasn't accurate, right? Or vice versa. Just because you can't prove that I was upset with you, you know it if I'm upset with you. Like I can't. And this is as a leader, this is like a real situation. Like I'm only going to be able to hide it so far, right? Or vice versa. You're only going to be able to hide when you're upset with me, the boss. You're only going to be able to hide it so far. That's what we're talking about here. I have a form. I'm going to share a more formalized process of that gut feeling. Prepare yourself. This took a lot of words. I'm going to read fast here. Yes. I smiled typing mind reading above and still smiling as I write this following disclaimer. Yep, it's factually mind reading, and nope, my process is simple, it's logical, and it's likely not what you're picturing. My process works. What I'm describing does work. Like, it doesn't matter if you believe me, right? Like it's in my perspective, which ironically will tie into most of my other posts. In my perspective, the book is closed, right? Case shut, right? And I can tell you how I do it, which I'm going to do in this post here. And the vast majority of people, they're just not ready for it, right? Like, and there's nothing you can do about it. I tell my boxing class, we're all chasing enlightenment. You never really get there, but the act of chasing it is the goal. Understanding this, what we're talking about here, knowing what people are feeling, that vibe, knowing what people are thinking, that's like the enlightenment. You're always chasing it. You're always trying to get better. Never assume that you're great, right? Like I'm just trying to get my percentage, my probability of correctness up, and I'm working on that every day, and it's climbing up, right? Like I don't know where it stops. Perfect is not the goal. It's just to get better. right? Okay. Kicker, a working mind reading process is not as cool as it sounds. True that. I'll explain in a second. Tons of negatives come with it. Example, human beings like privacy, and there's a default assumption perspective that you can keep what you think hidden. Nope. This is a real one. And for all those that are about to give this a try, or actually, if you're watching me right now, you can't turn this off, right? Like what I'm going to tell you is going to stick in your mind. It doesn't matter if you ignore me or you're distracted or doing something like this. This is going to change things, or yeah, high probability, fair probability it will yeah, it'll change things. So when this works, when you figure it out, the better you get, the less people like it. Where I'm currently at in this, I'm a few moves out, right? So I figure out what some well, this is all probabilistic, right? So I'm speaking in absolutes just to convey information, but the reality is probabilistic. And then I say I know what you're thinking. Well, on a probabilistic scale, I probably know what you're thinking, right? And then I probably such and such. I'm not sure how to describe it. The act of me telling you what you're thinking is a downgrade from what you're thinking. So then this gets into one of these negative loops that I'm talking about now. If I tell you what you're thinking, then you say no, that's not what you're thinking. Both those statements are correct, right? It's like a paradoxical loop, but I don't think it actually qualifies as a paradox. And really, it's the downgrade of verbal language, right? Thoughts are infinitely bigger than what words are. So when I tell you what you're thinking, am I describing exactly what you're thinking? Nope. And it's got nothing to do with my interpretation. It's the act of speaking. The act of speaking is the analog version of thought, right? It's less than thought. So if the rebuttal is, hey, that's not totally what I was thinking, or that's not what I was thinking, the answer is always going to be correct. And me saying I know what you're thinking, since we're talking vibes, there's like a level of depth to these definitions and whatnot. On my side, I'm always correct too, right? Like both sides are always correct. And I think that might qualify as a paradoxical loop, but not really. Not really. This is just how it works, right? And I think in this post, I'll read it here in a second, but I talked to compartmentalized blocks, understanding that everything, like my use of everything has depth, right? Like everything has depth. Like what we say, there's a depth to it. Uh, Let me think of a quick example. I'm making this up as I go right now. Are you happy? You could say yes. How happy? What are you happy about? What's your version of happy? Is happy? I'm a boxer. I am happy fighting highly trained boxers. Like I enjoy it. Like I have fun doing it. Right. That's my version of happy. High probability. Well, I already know. Like that's an outlier, right? So high probability when I'm talking to the average person in the average population, that's not going to be their version of happy. So when we both say that we're happy, we're not actually talking about happy. We're talking about a measure of depth. And the challenge is scoping out or as a listener, as the receiver of this information, identifying what level of depth this information came out of your mouth at, right? Like, because people speak in absolutes, the reality is probabilistic. Okay. I gotta go quick. This won't be the last time I correct myself on a rabbit hole. Kicker, a working mind reason. Oh, I already read this one. Okay, negatives that come with it. People don't like it when you're right. And it's kind of a bummer. It took me a few years to get over that next step. So what I'm presenting here is the first step. So I'm making this up as I go. Let's say your starting point is here. I'm talking one step from there, right? And that is just accepting that, yep, people can tell what you're thinking. Like first step, yep. If you're thinking it, it's visible. Yeah. Yeah, then there's all sorts of moral things that come from that. Like, what would the world be like if people could tell what you're thinking, right? Or what would lying be like if people could tell what you're thinking, right? Like it diminishes the value if everybody is cognizant of this natural ability. As far as I can tell, all human beings do, right? And this is what I'm describing here, this framework that I'm giving here, it's like a 2D view. I think visually. It's like a 2D, it's like a 2D object to this 3D structure. Right? No, that's confusing. Reality. Oh, negatives. So, no, never mind. I'm just going to keep reading. Reality. All humans pick up signals that you're giving off. And similar to a lie detecting test, the trick is in interpretation. Prioritize the understanding, the interpretation part. And I think I touched on that just a little bit ago. The big part, yeah, yeah. All human beings can do this, right? Accept that, right? We are not as special and unique as we think, right? Like it's an ego thing. Once you get past that ego part, everybody is more connected than what it. Maybe I'm tiptoeing around a rabbit hole. I don't want to, because I'm speaking to these compartmentalized blocks, right? So this statement, this thought, what's going on in my mind is built of a bunch of these different blocks, right? And I'm trying to express that to other people, and I'm cherry picking which blocks that I try to scope out. Why? Because it takes a long time, and I'm not perfect at expressing it, right? And on top of that, words being a downgrade, it's hard. It's hard to talk about, and aligning with this post or aligning with this paragraph. A lot of times it's negative. Like the default assumption is you can't tell what I'm thinking. The reality is I can tell what you're thinking, or everybody else can too. It's just it's different than how that sentence sounds. Reality, all humans pick up the signals you're giving off, and similar to a lie detecting test, the trick is in interpretation. Prioritize the understanding and the interpretation part. Know that you don't know. Yep, and that's the part before. Step one. Yep, this works. What you're thinking is not hidden. If you're the little kid calling in sick to work because you want to go mess off with your friends, or you stayed up all late, your boss has high probability your boss knows that something was wrong. I call it my spidey sense, right? Like that is the normal thing. Women talk about this a lot, but you know it when somebody's looking at you, right? Those are kinds of things. And when we're talking about this lie detecting, this I know what you're thinking, that's what we're talking about. I'm prescribing a framework to these vibes, right? Everybody's got it. Lying is not as successful as people think. It's that this is a rabbit hole, but it's actually like it's a measurement. But lying is a measurement bias, right? Like it's a lie because or you can't tell that I'm lying because you can't measure, you can't prove that I'm lying, right? So then the I'm not sure the perception that this lie is working, it's a measurement bias, right? And I'm speaking to this not measurement bias part. Just because I can't prove that you're lying doesn't mean I don't think that you're lying, or vice versa, right? Like, why is that? Why is that? Because factual stuff is small, like the ability to prove stuff, measurement bias, the ability to measure something, quantify something, it really doesn't matter. It's like elementary level, and what we're talking about here is the college level. Yeah. I'm laying the fundamental logic now. Oh, hey, what sense? This is what I'm doing. This is a fundamental law. These are the blocks. You need a few of these blocks for this to make sense, right? You need a whole bunch of these blocks to accept what I'm talking about here. Funny. Okay. I'm laying the fun. Oh my gosh. That's my first customer, Rick. You're awesome. I'm laying the fundamental logic now before listening to my personal successful steps below. In my experience, the fundamental logic and understandings can't be forced. That's what I was talking about. I'm going to tell you this. I anticipate the vast majority of my audience won't catch it, right? And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's just how this works. Like, it's super hard. Like, I can't fully explain how I caught it, right? And I can't fully explain how other people caught it. It's just where it goes. What I recommend, similar to boxing, it's enlightenment. You're always chasing it, right? You'll probably never get there. I don't think I'll ever get there, but I'm always going to be chasing it, right? Metaphor I use this with the veterans. It's like climbing Mount Everest, right? You don't do it to spend 10 minutes on top. You do it because you might die along the way. Like, you do it because it's really hard, right? That's the fun. The hard is the fun part, and that's what this is. This is hard to do. I recommend everybody chase it. right? Start climbing that mountain. You'll probably never get there, but start climbing the mountain. It's a fun mountain to climb. Um, in my experiences, fundamental logic and understandings can't be forced. Example, I'm about to tell you this is real and works great. Yes, it does. Most reading this will assume I'm wrong. Yes, it will. Which is a confirmation bias, right? It's oh my gosh, there's a weird little line here. It's a confirmation bias. You're going to look for information that supports your current thinking. Oh my gosh, ironically, that's part of this process. Uh, Confirmation bias is one of the clues to what you're thinking because we can see where the path of least resistance is by what information you absorbed. What do they call that in astronomy? Spectral, well, whatever. How do you know what elements are in the different stars? Because you block out everything else. And actually, that's very similar to what we're talking about here. I can figure out what your elements are by seeing what your perspective blocks out. Oh, actually, yeah, that's a great one. And I forgot, like in the process of building this, I can't pronounce the word spectrography. I have no idea. But how we figure out what elements are in the stars. This is the same thing. Very similar, except it's for perspective. How do I know what you're thinking? Because I'm actually measuring what you're blocking out. And what's left over is what you're thinking. Yep. Okay. I lost my spot. Why do governments compartmentalize secret info? Because it only takes one missing block for the obvious to become unobvious. And I think this is ironic, but understanding that's how information works, that's how compartmentalized information works, is one of the blocks of this compartmentalized perspective, right? Like knowing that just you take one block out and your current perspective doesn't work anymore. Or you add one block and your current perspective doesn't work anymore. And if you're able, step up a couple of notches. Once you're aware that that's actually how perception works, step up a notch and look down at yourself. Like, what don't you know? Right? Knowing that you don't know. Oh gosh, I use that statement here somewhere else. Knowing that you don't know, that is a block. That is a step. That is one of the notches to enlightenment. Know that you don't know. Most people don't know that they don't know. They think they know because they don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'm sharing one of these missing blocks now, not in a dangerous, secret, or crazy way. Again, everybody can do it. Like, this isn't a big deal. This is, you watch a mom and their kids, and you'll see a lot of what I'm talking about going on naturally. Like, it's a normal thing, right? Like, we just don't think about it. And this framework that I'm talking about helps. Not in a crazy way, but in ignorance is bliss kind of way. Odds are, and in my experience, you are happier not knowing what you're about to learn. And that speaks to knowing that you don't know. Like, we're all chasing comfort, right? Like, stepping outside of that comfort is the hard part. Insert the billion positive affirmations that are on the internet all the time. Like, knowing that you don't know sucks. Like, it hurts a little bit. Like, it's not cool. It like takes your ego down a few notches. Well, spoiler alert, you don't know. I don't know. That other person doesn't know. Nobody knows, right? That's the fun part. Once you know that you don't know, ironically, possibly, paradoxically, then you start to know. Yeah. And it's what I'm talking about is thousands of years old, probably before writing was a thing old. Yes. So last chance to turn away. You are thinking of what you're thinking. If it happened, it's measurable. True. And that's what I was talking about. But oh my gosh, I got 11 minutes left. That's what I was talking about before. Similar to cognitive bias. I know that you're going to be skewed towards information that you're already thinking, right? So like if I throw up if I toss out a bunch of information similar to, oh God, I should research how to pronounce that word. Spectrography. If I know, I'm not sure. If I think of this ahead of time in our conversation, I can start testing each one of these sections of this perception spectrum, right? And I'm going to see where you let the information in, right? So which is how we know what elements are out there. Like, I'm going to see what's all blocked out, and I'm going to see what's let in. Why? Because that's cognitive bias. And oh my I'm just going to keep saying it. I know it's wrong. Spectrography. It works the same way. Like you let in the information you want in. Why? Because of the confirmation bias, which is a normal thing. Right? I'm looking for what information you let in, and I'm testing everything else. When I speak to sonic, that's also what I'm talking about. I'm just giving different metaphors, different visuals for this process. Oh my gosh, gotta go. Get to go. Last chance to run away. You are thinking what you're thinking. If it happened, it's measurable. Yep. The next logical question is, how would somebody know? And I already touched on that. That's a cognitive bias, spectrography. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm going to start pronouncing that word like I think I know what it is. And then, yeah. Words don't mean anything. Don't think of words people use. Yep, that's a big one. Oh my gosh, that could be one of the biggest compartmentalized perception blocks. What people are saying is that trick. It doesn't work. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to finish reading this. Don't think of the words people use. Words don't matter. It's a trick. Avoid the trap. What people factually say is the least important part of what they're saying. This is a big deal. Normal people, the average person, talk. They talk to each other. Like average perception, common perception, the mean of perception is that talking matters. What I'm talking about here is not the mean. It's not the average. It is not what you think it is. Like that's one of the uncomfortable parts. Step outside of your comfort zone. What people are saying doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're talking babies that can't talk instead of adults that can tell you whatever they want to tell you, right? The baby will transfer more information, more sincere information, more trustworthy information. Yep. Words don't matter. Boxing, it's like rope-a-dope. I'm going to say a bunch of stuff here and then get you over here, right? Like it's a normal thing. It's normal that words don't matter when it comes to this kind of stuff. Where we're looking for pure. We're looking for a pure signal. And that we're going to play on their cognitive biases to find it. I lost my spot and I'm just talking until I find it. Why do yep. Words don't mean anything. Don't think of the words people use. Words don't matter. It's a trick. Avoid the trap. What people factually say is the least important part of what they're saying. This is one of the compartmentalized blocks I mentioned above. Spoken words are only an illusion of thought. That's a cool sentence. I like that. That's a t-shirt someday. I searched for the path of least resistance, and that's the spectrography. Oh my God. The spectral analysis of starlight. Yeah, you find out what elements are in there by what's absorbed or what's not absorbed. I don't remember how it works, but either way, it's totally possible, right? That's a big part here. This mind reading, totally possible. Same thing. Very similar. I search for the path of least resistance, not truth. This is important to note, and where most fall off the observational bandwagon. My conclusions are wrong until proven otherwise. And it's I'm going to talk on Sonic here a little bit. Sonic bounces around Dr. Robotnik's vehicle. That's what I'm doing. I'm asking questions. I'm bouncing around whatever you're thinking, right? And I'm looking for what info you absorb, what info you allow in. Because that's a major clue. That's like the biggest clue on what you're thinking. If you reject 99% of the questions that I ask on this spectrum of perception, and then you let one in, game on. Okay. I take guesses and try to prove myself wrong through the observations. The goal is not to be right, but to be not wrong. That's a big deal. Everybody's trying to be right, and that's the dichotomy of absolutes. It's not that. What we're talking about here is probabilistic. That is a block. Life is probabilistic. Nothing, ironically, is correct, or nothing. Everything is. It's simultaneous. It's both true and not true at the same time. It's both right. Your guess is both right and not right at the same time, and it's just a matter of definition. And that's What people are thinking is what they're most willing to hear. Good, bad, right, wrong, happened, didn't happen, less important. Don't focus on the surface. It doesn't matter. The info we're after is on a different level. I picture this as the different dimensions of the same observation. And that's what we're talking about here. Let's say your observations are here. What we're talking about is up here. looking down. Step outside of your body, step outside of your perception, and then look back at yourself perceiving whatever you're perceiving, right? It matters. The better you're able to do that, the easier this gets. You can check yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go. Observation mentioned above is a prime learning curve to seeing my thought or to my thought process. Example, what do you see? A measure of depth more than a measure of fact. I just touched on that. Like words. I apologize for using words are dumb, right? It's the finger painting of this perception art. Yep. Two people can look at the same thing and see two different things. The more you see, the more this works. Don't look for specifics. Don't look for discrete measures. This is best described as a vibe. Let go of the need to quantify measurement bias. This is not easy to measure. That's a big thing. As far as I can tell, most human beings on planet Earth haven't crossed that step yet. Let go of the handrail, right? Just because you can't measure it doesn't mean it's not real. And actually, once you get into it, most things are not measurable. And this is a measure of depth. That could be ironic. This is a measure of depth. The things that we quantify, it's all surface level. The reality is it's a giant spectrum. It's like the visible light, right? You have gamma rays and you have radio waves. Like visible light is just a tiny part. Just because we can see it doesn't mean it's all there is to be seen. Let go of that. There is a lot to be seen. Yep. Come up with an educated guess. I wonder what if they're thinking this, and then I test it. And that speaks to, oh my gosh, I got 4 minutes left. I'm going to start skipping stuff. That speaks to my Sonic the Hedgehog strategy, and I touch on it as like the event horizon of a black hole. You don't know what somebody's thinking, but you can scope out what they're thinking. You can find the perimeter of what they're thinking, and then from there, you just take guesses. Like intelligent, educated guesses, right? Like, and this is where you go into like just normal human being to human being. Once you scope out that event horizon of their current perception, like it's basic detective work, right? Like, but unlike detective work, I'm not actually asking you what. I don't care what you respond with on words. Oh my gosh, I only got 3 minutes left. It doesn't really matter. I'm looking for how your expressions change, right? Like I'm looking for your vibe to change. Like what we're talking about, it's all a setup. Like I'm roping up, like I'm luring you in, but the words I'm using doesn't matter at all, right? Like I'm switching to boxing mode right now just because it's easy for me to visualize. But if I'm acting like I'm hurt, I'm luring you in. Like if I'm asking you these questions, I'm luring you in. But really, I'm fishing for the event horizon of your current perception. Yep. The better I scope it out, the more accurate my guess is when I make it, my hypothesis or whatever. Come up with an educated guess. I wonder if they're thinking this, and then test it. Oh my gosh, I'm running out of time here. I'm gonna skip some stuff. Why? Because you can go back and read this. Yep, you know what? I'm just going to go to the conclusion. Look at the steps. I've described all the steps already anyway as I was talking freehand here. At the end of this first Sonic movie, Sonic hits the Dr. Robotnik's flying machine a whole bunch of times, right? And in the movie, he just hits it a whole bunch and it blurs, right? It blurs into just the blue glow or whatever. And really, that's just like the event horizon. You can't see the black hole, but you can see all the stuff going into... Oh, there's a word for whatever. The event horizon. You can see all the stuff hitting the event horizon, and the event horizon shapes the black hole. We can shape your thoughts, and that's what I'm describing. That's what my process does. It shapes your thoughts, and then we take guesses on what it is. Why? Because there's only so many probable things, right? Like you can guess with a high probability of correctness what somebody's thinking, and oh gosh, we're at the end of the time here. When you'll know it when you're right. This is the crazy part of the process, the weird part of the process. Why I'm now 3 moves further out than what we're talking about. When you guess it right, people don't like it. It's like a stranger walking into your house. I know when I'm right by the look on your face. Like when I toss out a hypothesis and then your face goes white, that's a sign of correct fit, right? Which is not cool. Who likes that? Nobody likes that. But that's how it works. And it's just the uncomfortable. It's the assumption that we can keep our thoughts private. And that's the scary part, or that's the goofy part there. That's the part people reject. It's hey, how would you know what I'm thinking? because I'm good at this. Oh my gosh, we're at the end of the time. Yeah, I lost it. This was awesome. Holy cow, I'm going to keep posting this kind of stuff. I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you much. And this is cool. I like doing this. Thank you. Have a great day.